G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, and welcome back to another episode of r/Revenge. Now if you love me as much as I love you, and you want to knock the living daylights out of anyone that goes against the good word of Steve Irwin, chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments and say hoorah. Now I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good old revenge. Now our first post is by user, unique username 504, titled Me and Karen, a love story. Just kidding, Karen's a total tramp. But buckle up, buckaroos, because here is my novel. My husband and I are in our late 30s and child-free. Some people on child-free said I should post here too, so enjoy the saga. My husband and I have been saving up for almost a decade to move to a tropical paradise. About 2 years ago, we bit the bullet and moved to our dream location. Housing here is super expensive, like Hawaii prices. So all we could afford was a half of a duplex. It is beautiful and on the water with places for our boat. Unfortunately, Karen, Billy Bob, the boyfriend, and her 3 gremlins live in the other unit. Setup. There is some period of time we just went for a week here and there, but we live here full time now. The entire duplex was owned by an older gentleman who rented out both sides. The sides do not match at all. One side is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, the other side is a duplex is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We bought the 5-bedroom. On our side of the property, we have 90% of the backyard, a gazebo and dockage. About 150 feet since it is on a corner. The other side has a small backyard, patio, and maybe 15 foot of dockage. The rental leases say the renters are entitled to their specific backyards, but there were no fences or anything, so all the renters shared the entire backyard. After we bought the house, Karen immediately tried to throw her weight around that they expected to continue with that privilege. I told her if she asked politely, we would try to accommodate her. She thought this meant she could use our backyard whenever she wanted. Party incident. One day, my husband and I are enjoying some drinks outside when a delivery truck shows up to set up a giant blow-up thing in our backyard. I asked Karen what the hell she thought she was doing, and she said it was her kid's birthday. Then she had the gall to say it was a family and friends only event, so we had to stay inside our house. Not wanting to be a total jerk and ruin some little girl's birthday, I told Karen after this she had no access to our backyard, period. Karen shrugged and kept setting up for the party. During the party, a drunk adult wandered into our house, which shocked us all. I said Karen's house is on the other side, and he said, oh, Karen said she owned the whole property, and to use whichever bathroom was available. I directed him to Karen's bathroom, and soon after she came storming into our house, screaming about how dare we make her look bad to her friends, and how selfish we are we couldn't even spare one bathroom. She said we didn't deserve all this space with just us. I told Karen to get the hell out of my house or I would be calling the cops. She finally left and the party wrapped up shortly after. Backyard remodel. After the incident, we decided we needed to clearly define the backyard and build a fence. While we were spending the money, we decided to update the patio, put in a fire pit, and an outdoor kitchen. While the contractor was on site, nosy Karen had to come investigate. Since the fence would be the last thing built, I was vague and just stuck to her telling about the patio update. You could see her face light up because of course in her mind, what's ours is hers. When the workers started on the fence, Karen came out screaming for the work to stop. I went outside and told the workers to keep working and told Karen to butt out. Of course in true Karen fashion, she called the cops. What happened was next to hilarity on my part after explaining to the cop that we were building a fence on our property and that the landlord, of which Karen was not, knew about it. When the cop gave Karen a stern lecture, I thought her head was going to explode. She went back into her house and slammed the sliding door so hard it sounded like something cracked. We got our fence and I thought that would be the end. But of course not. The boat incident. One day, Billy Bob Bim Bum Billy Bob entered the picture, and he was as much of a terrible neighbor as Karen. He would throw cigarette butts and empty beer cans over our fence for disrespecting his woman. You ain't never disrespect my woman around these parts, you hear? I didn't know Paradise had trailer trash, But Billy Bob is the epitome of the stereotype. Billy Bob has a boat, a 30-foot fishing boat to be precise. Of course, that side of the duplex only has 15 foot of dockage. Since we have so much dockage and only one boat, we rent out the other dockage spots as month to month. People come and go, so if we don't receive rent from them by the end of the month and the boat disappears, we think nothing of it. Well, that's evil. We had a renter who tied up their boat on the property line, but Billy Bob wanted to park his boat and needed that space. Karen and Billy Bob posed as us. We were out of town, told the renters to be gone at the end of the month, and then parked Billy Bob's boat on the dockage. I only found out about it weeks later because the renter left a nasty review on the rental site that we use. They said we were rude and went back on the verbal agreement to let them stay for 3 more months. I was like, what the hell is all this? After a phone call, I quickly put 2 and 2 together. I called the cops who told Karen and Billy Bob that they need to move their boat or it would be towed. The equivalent of it anyway. Karen and Billy Bob started screaming the boat is fully on their property, which it isn't. Then changed to no one can own the water. True, but a seawell is deeded. That we are liars, and at some point Billy Bob punched a cop and went to jail. I felt bad for the cops, so took them all to snacks the next day with a note apologizing for neighbor drama. I ended up winning my small claim suit against them for lost rental income, but of course haven't seen a dime. I eventually convinced the dockage renters to come back and gave them a few months free as compensation. Final revenge. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Get ready for a juicy justice boner, slapping you in the face real quick. So with the collapsing market, we were trying to figure out what to do with our savings when a perfect opportunity opened up. The landlord who owned both properties was in desperate need of some cash and was tired of managing the property from 2,000 miles away. Because of course Karen is a Karen and called him weekly for every little thing. His only stipulation was to let the poor single mum who has been in his renter for 8 years finish up her lease, which is up in July. Since we just have money we were trying to reinvest, and because now we get to control our neighbours, heck yeah we jumped on that. Since we didn't need a realtor or mortgage and an inspection had been done just a year ago for the old landlord to refinance, everything closed in just under 2 weeks. Karen was aware of a change of ownership. We registered the property under an LLC, but didn't know who, until 8 days ago. I went over to Karen's house and knocked on the door. Karen answered with a, "What the hell do you want, beer?" I smiled, handed her our landlord information, and sweetly reminded her that rent was due by Friday, but she could just hand me the check if that was easier. I've always heard descriptions of people's faces turning white, but this was the first time I have actually seen it. I told Karen that we were honouring her lease until the end of July, but afterwards, she had better make plans to move, because we instead wanted to remodel it before the next tenants moved in. Bye, bear! Edit. A lot of people misunderstood the beginning. Let's call our side of the duplex Duplex OP, the other duplex is Duplex Karen. We purchased Duplex OP. After we bought it, Duplex OP was no longer a rental. Both Duplex OP and Duplex Karen were for sale independently, but we only had money to buy Duplex OP. Duplex Karen is still a rental because it has never sold. Now we own both Duplex OP and Duplex Karen. Duplex Karen is still a rental, Duplex OP is still not a rental. When we made property improvements to Duplex OP, it was ours and not a rental. Alright, and our next post is by Blazier. Cross post from TFTFD. I thought she was checking in for a one-night stand. Boy was I glad to be wrong. I posted this originally at r/tales from the front desk, and I was told to share it on here as well. This is some secondhand revenge, as I was more a spectator than anything else. Enjoy and let me know if I might be wrong on the revenge subreddit. Note, this is pre-corona/stay-at-home/quarantine. Glossary. Distressed passengers, flight passengers from an airline who had to cancel or delay a flight for whatever reason and have been redirected to a hotel to stay in a while they waited for the next flight, however long that might be. So, I'd been working as a front desk agent for about a week. It's my first time working at a hotel, so I'm still learning the ropes, even though I'd previously worked as a check-in agent for a cruise line. I'm working the afternoon shift and things have been pretty slow. Couple of checks in here and there, and that's about it. It's about 7 PM when this lady, we'll call her Libby, comes in and after talking things out at the valet, makes her way over to me. We exchange greetings and she tells me she would like to reserve a room, but only for a couple of hours. Obviously, we're not a motel, so I let her know the minimum of time she could reserve a room for would be a full night. After asking what the price would be, $240, which is way too much for the kind of hotel I work at, by the way. She agrees and hands me her credit card. This is where things get weird. As soon as I ask her for ID to make the reservation, Libby backtracks and says that she doesn't want her name anywhere on the reservation and would like to make it under the name of the guy who would be joining her later, instead. I pause for a moment, and after asking her again if she was planning on using the room as well, I tell her that I at least need to put her name into the accompanying list for the room. I reassure her that only the employees would be able to see said list, and that no, the guy she was planning to meet would not see it. I would like to make it very clear that throughout this whole interaction, Libby has been super composed, kind and understanding. At this point, however, I'm just thinking she's here for a one-night stand and doesn't want the dude to know anything about her because she's probably married or something, which I can work with, sure, but why not just actually get a motel lady? The theory of mine is further solidified when Libby asks me to make a note in the reservation so that, if any point we need to address her by name around the dudes, we wouldn't call her by her real name, and instead she gives me a fake name, or so I thought, to address her by. At this point, I'm obviously bewildered, but still trying to be accommodating, and trying really hard to not let her show how much I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on, Lamau. We go through the rest of the check-in process, and she even goes as far as showing me a pic of the dude so I'll know who he is when he comes in. I hand her the key and she heads to the room. About an hour later, mystery dude walks in. Let's call him Jake. My co-worker, who has no clue of anything, ends up checking him in, so I don't really get to see much of Jake. To be honest, at this point I still wasn't giving the whole thing much thought other than, that's a bit weird, lol. Not even 30 minutes have passed since Jake went up and Libby comes back down and hands me both keys. They'd both received one each, says thank you in the most serious yet cordial way, and then walks off. Multiple thoughts went through my mind as this lady was making her way to the valet. 1, that was way too fast, even for a quickie. 2, why the heck did she even give me 2 keys? Where's Jake? 3, Libby, please tell me you didn't murder Jake. Security is standing behind me, staring Libby down, probably having the same thought process as I am. The supervisor for security usually spends the night hanging out at FD. My coworker and I are whispering with each other and still trying to figure out what the heck happened, because that did not look like a lady who had just had a pleasant romp in the sheets. Cue Jake coming down the stairs and, okay, we can breathe, he's not dead. Now, what happened next, we couldn't see because we suddenly had an onslaught of distressed passengers. Like 30. I wanted to die. So I thought I wouldn't find out what the hell actually happened between Libby and Jake. But then, the worker from the valet came over, and boy did he have some tea to spill. Turns out that Libby had gone as far as asking the valet guy to park her car in a way that the license plate wouldn't be visible. Why? Because turns out that Jake is Libby's husband. And you might be asking yourself by this point, why has this lady gone through so much trouble to hide anything that might give her identity away from her husband? Well, dear reader, because the alias that Libby gave me just so happened to be the name of the girl Jake was cheating on her with. This woman, somehow, got her cheating-ass husband to believe that his girlfriend had booked them a sweet, sweet night at the hotel, only for him to show up and find his wife sitting on the bed instead. This baller-ass mother hacker of a woman came downstairs after probably massacring the heck out of this idiotic boy with not a hair out of place, and calmly had the valet bringing both of their cars back, and then patiently waited for Jake Schmake to get his sorry ass back to the lobby so that she could extend her hand and demand their house keys from him. She then got into her car and just drove away. The only thing that would have made this even better was if Jake Schmake's girlfriend had also been there to tear into him as well. I like to think she has a part to play in this whole thing, since how else would Libby have managed to trick him into getting to the hotel? Point is, this woman is all I aspire to be. And our next post is by Golden Jumper 11. Spotify hacker got a surprise. So I noticed my Spotify had a PS4 with a German name connected to it, which is odd because I don't have a PS4. Spotify was unable to disconnect me from it using my account, so I decided to take it into my own hands and blast Attila at full volume on their PS4 at midnight German time. I think they may have been in game since they did let it go for a few seconds and then attempted going to the next/previous songs and pausing it a few times to no avail. Eventually they uninstalled Spotify and I changed my password, but damn that felt good. And our next post is by Wally Wolfdog. Airport Karen decides to show up 30 minutes before flight. A few years ago, my college sports team was flying out for a competition. We were flying out of our town, which has notoriously quick and easy airport experiences for those of us who know it well. When flying alone, it's generally no sweat to show up only an hour before, or even less. But this is always a risk in all airports, even the small ones. Our team of 20 people showed up for our early flight 2 hours beforehand, which in my opinion is still cutting it close in a lot of cases. When we get there, we can see immediately a long line out of security, which is not normal at all for this airport. We all have to check our bags and get into line, where every once in a while an employee would walk through the line, asking people to look at their tickets for TSA pre-check, which means you basically get to go straight through the security line. While we were waiting in an unusually long time, we started to pick up a lot on different people in front and behind us that are all about to miss the same flight. Some people are clearly anxious and asking the employees what's going on. Unfortunately, about 20 people behind my team and I is a Karen. Karen's flight leaves in 30 minutes, and I note the fact that she is behind us in line, which means she probably just showed up only half an hour before the flight leaves. Insanity. For the next 30 minutes, Karen is pushing past people. Some of them are on the same flight as her, without asking any sort of permission. Karen is also yelling loudly this whole time at any employee she sees about how they are incompetent, need to let her through, etc. She is also demanding that they need to open up the other security lanes so more people can go through faster. Obviously, TSA guidelines are not a thing to this Karen. So finally, Karen literally pushes her way through the line to about 5 people away from where my team is waiting, and there is no way we are letting her through. This is when I decide to get a little more revenge for all those poor employees and all the other nice and respectful people waiting there. Being at the back of the line, my friend and I tell the people in between Karen and ourselves that they can skip ahead of our whole team, because they're also on the flight that Karen is about to miss. They go through, and finally Karen gets there, expecting for us to let her through too. Ha! We told her that she was very rude to the employees, and we weren't going to let her pass. She tried to shove past us, which was hilarious. She huffed and puffed behind us, and was mumbling a bunch of stuff about us the whole rest of the way through the line. So, we are finally about 3 people away from where our IDs are checked. Karen has finally stopped yelling at every single possible employee that comes by because we are so close to the front. Remember what I mentioned earlier, that the employee who comes by to remind us to look for TSA pre-check on our boarding passes? Well, turns out Karen was yelling over or at this guy the whole time and never got the info, and when she finally started actually listening to people who work there, she found out she could have skipped the entire line from the very beginning of this story. Amazing. I swear some people laugh out loud when she went, "Oh, I have that." Freaking idiot. Alright, our next post is by Tinder Guy 11. titled I Took Petty Revenge on a Guy at the Screening of Avengers Endgame. So this happened last year. I had bought movie tickets for me and my then girlfriend to see Avengers Endgame on the opening weekend. I'll admit I like the MCU movies, but I'm not what I would call a massive fanboy. To me, they're all pretty good, but generally forgettable. Regardless, I had been excited to see this one. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, I ended up sitting next to the most annoying moviegoer in cinema history. He was the type of guy that commented on everything during the movie, and not softly either. He was talking like he was at a football stadium. Black Widow appears on screen. Oh my god, that's Black Widow! And then would proceed to explain who the character is to the girl sitting next to him. Iron Man shows up on screen. Same story. That cringe-worthy scene with all the women being miraculously available during the final battle to pose for a poster, and then back up Captain Marvel. Oh my god, it's the woman! They're gonna kick some serious butt now! You get the point. But this was his commentary throughout the whole film. The girl sitting next to him seemed so embarrassed that she was sliding deeper and deeper into her seat every time he opened his mouth. Cue the petty revenge. I had read online that Endgame had no post-credits sequence. Honestly, even if it had, I'm not sure we would have stayed for it, because my girlfriend and I both just wanted to get away from this guy. Before standing up though, I leaned over to him and told him that I'd actually seen the movie this morning, so I'm not going to stay for the post-credits sequence again. But it is insane. It completely starts off Phase 4. The guy's face lit up as if he had just been told that he won the lottery. I walked out feeling good that I would at least be spoiling one part of the movie for him because he had ruined the entire film for both me and my girlfriend. And yes, I know he probably would have stayed anyway, but it made me feel better knowing I had built his hopes up for nothing. And our next post is by user Thomas Jefferson, titled Bullies Won't Pull This Girl's Hair Again. So years ago, my high school classmate exacted sweet revenge while defending herself against bullies. As a teen, her interest in advanced academics and classical music, combined with her introverted personality, set her apart from the high school rabble. Her parents were an Indian-European couple, and she inherited her mother's dark complexion and thick black hair. In this majority white school, the long braids she wore in her hair attracted attention from boys too mean or too dumb to keep their hands to themselves. These boys would grab her braid and drag her down the hole by her hair. After this happened a few times, she laid a trap. The next boy who grabbed her hair had a very painful experience. This brilliant girl had braided tacks into her hair. She told me how proud she was of this trap for two reasons. First, it was strictly defensive. Second, it was proportional. The harder they grab, the harder they get pricked. Alright, and our next post is by Hector Moriarty44. The Time I Ruined the Life of an Online Troll. So I found this guy a while back and have been sharing my story ever since. I see a comment on my article said that this would be a good place to post. I'm not entirely proud of what I did to this man's life, but I do think it was justified. I do think that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. This is the story of the time I ruined the life of an online troll. Now this may sound extreme, however, I believe it was justified given the circumstances and nature of my encounter. To understand how I found this individual, I need to take you back to 2015. It was 2015 that I would spend my days Googling pointless topics. One day, I decided to look up opinions on the meaning of life. I scrolled through various pages of search engines results until I came across the concept of nihilism. What is nihilism? Nihilism interested me because it was unlike any other belief I found on my search for the meaning of life. To put it simply, nihilism is the belief that the world is meaningless. It is a pessimistic approach to life, which suggests that there is no point in life because nothing holds real relevance. Nihilism can make people believe existence does not matter, therefore their actions do not either. Many people view nihilism as a realistic belief that opposes our human nature to seek significance. I wanted to speak to a real-life nihilist and hear their opinions on life. What I found shocked me. Nihilism explained. Nihilism on social media upon discovering nihilism. I joined several Facebook groups surrounding the topic. These groups were full of dark humor and memes that made fun of life and death. Comments such as "existence is misery" was common to see. In these groups, I came across a few genuine nihilists. The community was predominantly made up of people who were depressed, or people who would see the humor in depression. The nihilist approach meant that depression was not important, because nothing is relevant. This was why suicide jokes are a hit in nihilist groups. I found that the constant sharing of suicide memes meant that people become desensitized to death. People would believe that their existence is meaningless, which is not a good thought to have if you are dealing with genuine depression. I spoke to one individual privately who said they did not want to live anymore. They told me the world is not real, but my sadness is. The world is not real, but my sadness is. This made me realize that nihilism and depression are a bad combination. I reassured this person and told them that they were important. A few minutes later, I went to get in touch with how they were getting on, but I discovered that their Facebook account had vanished. That hurts to hear, oh my god. Nihilist meme. Encountering the troll. Fast forward to mid-2016, and I get a Facebook notification from one of the nihilist groups. It was someone seeking genuine advice to kill themselves. They said they wanted their death to be peaceful, but they were scared. Upon checking the comments of the post, I noticed one person advising them to run into an oncoming train, as this would be painless and fast. The person giving them the advice was the troll whose life I went on to ruin. For the remainder of this article, I will refer to the troll as Nigel, to protect identity. At the time, I thought Nigel was being edgy for the sake of it, but this was not the case. I thought back to the time when I spoke to the person who told me their sadness was real but the world was not. The fact they had disappeared off social media gave me goosebumps. I assumed that the worst had happened and that this could become a recurring story in this group. I decided to look up posts and comments made by Nigel in the group. All the comments turned out to be methods for depressed people to kill themselves. Nigel would give people reassurance that death was the only way out. He would pretend he was doing the people a favor. A distraught man posted that he was ashamed that he kept failing to kill himself. Nigel told him not to beat himself up about it, and that if he works hard, one day he will be able to do it. Using Facebook as a weapon, I realized that Nigel was not your ordinary troll, and that I had to do something to stop him. I created a fake profile to contact Nigel. At this time, I had no intention to ruin his life. I just wanted him to stop ruining the lives of others. On my fake profile, I told him that I had seen his comments and that they could have a devastating effect. He replied to tell me that he did not care. Facebook troll. The first warning from my understanding. Nigel had the belief that depression was a weakness to humanity. It appeared he was on a mission to weed out the weak members of society. It was almost like he got a buzz from it. Some weird kick that motivated him to do it that I could not understand. I warned Nigel that if continued, there would be repercussions. He told me that he did not care and then blocked my fake profile. I logged into my genuine profile and checked for new posts by Nigel. A day later, I saw that he was back to his old tricks. He was yet again giving suicide advice to another mentally tortured soul. The second warning. Nigel had made a crucial mistake by not setting his Facebook profile to private. I was able to see every post that he has ever made, as well as the friends that he had. Nigel was a family man and made it clear on Facebook how much his wife meant to him. I decided that I would give Nigel his second warning. This time, I would make it more personal. This time, I wanted to put fear into him. Within 10 minutes, I was able to find Nigel's home address. I decided that I would write a letter to his address. This letter was handwritten to add a personal touch. On the envelope, I addressed the letter to his wife's name so that he would not be able to simply brush it under the carpet. The letter read the following. Your husband continues to encourage suicide online. He provides method of suicide for depressed people and he must be stopped. Could you please let him know that this is his final warning? I will be watching. The letter was sent with the intention to make Nigel stop doing what he does. I thought this would be the only way to get through to him. The more I thought about it, the more I felt guilty that his wife may be living in fear. This was something that I did not take into consideration initially. My mission to stop Nigel clouded my thoughts. However, I knew this was necessary for the greater good. The final blow. It had been a month since I wrote the letter, and I had not seen a single post from Nigel. I thought maybe I had finally gotten through to him, but I was wrong. Another month passed, and Nigel was back at it again. I was disappointed. However, I was not prepared to give up. I reached out to the depressed victims to let them know they had my support. Nigel had to pay for his actions. But how? I decided to take a deeper look into Nigel's personal profile. His use of the internet meant that his life was essentially an open book. I was stunned when I discovered that he worked at a care home. He was not someone I could trust in society to care for others. I knew I had to deliver the final blow. Nigel's LinkedIn profile revealed that he was a senior member at a care home. This care home was reputable and risked their reputation by hiring him. I dug deep to pull out a barrage of screenshots I had of Nigel's activity online. After some contemplation, I decided that I would get in touch with the care home via their Facebook page. I logged into the fake profile via a proxy and sent the screenshots. I did not believe that he was fit to be trusted with human life. A member of the staff replied to say that the case had been handed over to the CEO. Facebook Messenger screenshot. The aftermath. A week later, Nigel was no longer on the company website and had also been removed the care home from his LinkedIn page. It was clear that his actions had caused him to lose his job. Nigel's relationship status on Facebook had changed from in a relationship to it's complicated. In almost an instant, he had lost his job and damaged his relationship with his family. Nigel had completely stopped posting on Facebook and eventually shut his Facebook account. This guy's life was turned upside down, and it all stemmed from his actions online. I have comfort in knowing that he will never encourage suicide again. Everyone has the right to an opinion, but nobody has the right to prey on the vulnerable. Do I feel guilty? Of course. But then I remember all of those people that he sought to destroy. This man was in a position of care. What if my actions had saved the life of someone? It is these thoughts that make my guilt fade away. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that story today, this collection of stories from all the revenge subreddits. Tell me what you thought about all of them. Some of them are short, some of them are long, but they're really well read. And they're like books. I'd love to read books. I'd love to be a reader for books. This is just one step there, I guess. Hope you guys enjoyed these ones today. Tell me what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.